Okay, these are the answers for 3.1 day 1, page 164. Number 11, you're just adding 3i plus 5i together to give you 8i. Number 12, you have 5i, and if you distribute that negative through, it'd be minus 2 plus I, which would be negative 2 plus 6i. Number 13, you have negative 7i times 1 plus I. Okay, distribute that through is negative 7i minus 7i squared. I squared is negative 1, so that makes that a positive 7 minus 7i. Number 14, when we divide, we don't like the I in the denominator, so we're going to multiply by I over I, which gives you 4i plus 2i squared over I squared. Okay, I squared is negative 1, so that makes that a negative 2 plus 4i over negative 1. And if you distribute that negative 1 through, it'd be 2 minus 4i. Okay, and we'll skip to number 22. We'll do evens now. Okay, 22, we have the square root of negative 169. It's a square root of negative 1 times the square root of 169, which is 13i. 24, negative square root of negative 225. We have square root of 225, which is 15. So it would be a negative, and then this here would be 15i. Number 26, 95 does not simplify down, so it's just negative I square root of 95, because you take that negative, this negative out to make the I. 28, we have negative 7 plus, okay, the square root of 100 is 10, and the negative makes it I, so 10i. Number 30, okay, we have negative 11 minus the square root of negative 24. Now 24 will split into 4 times 6, which is 2 times 2. So you can see this can be simplified down. So we have negative 11 there, and then minus 2i, and we're left with the 6 inside. Number 32, we have I square root of negative 16. Okay, square root of 16 is 4, and that's I, so we have I, then we have times I square root, not square root of 4, times 4i, right? Square root of 16 is 4. Make that look a little nicer. Okay, and you multiply those together, you get 4i squared. I squared is negative 1, so you get negative 4. 34. Okay, so the first one there would be I square root of 17 times I square root of 17. Okay, and that would be I squared times the square root of 17 times 17. Okay, now I squared is negative 1, and the square root of 17 times 17 would just be 17. 36, I square root of 5 times I square root of 15, which would be I squared, square root of 5 times 15. Okay, if I break that 15 down, it would be 5 times 3. So I have 5 times 5 times 3. Notice they're a pair there, so we're going to take that out front. I squared is negative 1, so we'd have negative 1 times 5. Then we have the square root of 3 left over. Oh, you couldn't see that. You couldn't see the last couple. Anyway, hopefully you got those there. Write it down and then go back and listen to it, what my words were as well, I guess. Okay, 38, we have the square root of negative 70 over the square root of negative 7. So this would be I square root of 70 divided by I square root of 7. The I divided by I cancels, and that will give you the square root of 10. 70 divided by 10 by 7 is 10. Number 40. Okay, this would be I square root of 54 over I, oh, not I, just 20, square root of 27. So when you simplify that, 54 over 27 is the square root of 2. So we'd have I from there, square root of 2. 42, you have I square root of 40 okay, so this would be I, and then the square root of 40 over the square root of 20 would be the square root of 2. 44, this would be I square root of 12 times I square root of 6 divided by the square root of 8. Okay, so let's take these two and multiply them together. So I times I will give you I squared, and then 12 times 6. Okay, 12 would be 6 times 2, and then times another 6 here. So you see there's two 6's, which goes out front 6 square root of 2. And I squared times I is negative 1. Okay, and the last thing we can, well, not last thing, but we can reduce these. 2 over 8 would be 1. So fourth, square root of 1 is 1. Square root of 4 is 2, and you reduce, you get negative 3. Now there are other ways you could go through that, but your final answer should be that there. Okay, 46. Okay, we're adding these together, so adding like terms, 4 plus 2 gives you the 6, and then negative I plus 5I would be plus 4I. 48. Okay, if you take that negative and distribute it through, it would be plus 4 and minus 5i. So adding your like terms, you'd have 1, and 5i and negative 5i cancel. Number 50. Once again, we're subtracting, so you have 9 minus 5i. Distribute the negative is negative 3i plus 6. So 9 plus 6 gives you the 15, and the 2 i's there would be negative 8i. 52, so you'd have negative 4 minus I, minus 2 minus 3i, plus 4 plus 5i. So just adding all those like terms together. Negative 4, negative 2 is negative 6, plus 4 more is negative 2. And then negative I would be negative 4, plus 5 would be plus 1i. 54. Okay, just adding all these together. So 7 plus 1 is 8, minus 8 is 0. 9i minus 2i is 7i, minus 7i is 0. So 0 plus 0 is 0. 56. Okay, we're now multiplying here. So we have negative 2 plus 3i, 4 minus 2i. Okay, multiply it through. Be negative 8 plus 4i plus 12i minus 6i squared. Okay, if you remember, I squared is negative 1 times negative 6 makes that a positive 6. And I can add that to that negative 8 to be negative 2. 12i plus 4i is 16i. 58. Okay, 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times negative 5i is negative 5i. Plus 6i minus 15i squared. I squared is negative 1, makes that a 15, positive 15. Plus 2 is 17, and plus I. Number 60, okay. 2 plus I squared means it's 2 plus I times 2 plus I, which would be 4 plus 2I plus 2I plus I squared. Remember, I squared is negative 1. 4 and negative 1 give you 3. 2i plus 2i is 4i. Okay, 62. Negative 5 minus I and 5 plus I. So negative 25 minus 5i minus 5i minus I squared. Now, I squared is negative 1 times this negative makes it a positive 1. So negative 25 plus 1 would be negative 24, and minus 10i when you combine the i's together. 64, 6 minus 4i times 6 plus 4i. Remember, whoops, 6 there. Remember, that's a conjugate, right? Those are conjugates of each other. So 6 times 6 is 36, plus 24i, minus 24i, and minus 16i squared. So this makes this a positive 16. 16 plus 36, 52. I should have just done that in my head. And the two middles cancel out, 24i and negative 24i. 66. We have the square root of 2 minus 4i times the square root of 2 plus 4i. Once again, conjugates of each other. So square root of 2 times the square root of 2 would be square root of 4, which would be 2. Outside would be plus 4i square root of 2. You can't take the 4 and the 2 because that's a square root and that's not, so just write it like that. Inside would be negative 4i square root of 2, and then negative 16i squared. So we said this was a 2. That's a negative 1, makes that a plus 16. So together gives you 18, and the middle terms cancel. 68, we have I times 2 plus 7i times 2 minus 7i. I'm going to do this part first, okay, and multiply it by I after that. So 2 times 2 gives you 4. And outside is negative 14i, inside plus 14i, and last, negative 49i squared. So we have I, and then inside, middle terms cancel. Negative 1 times negative makes it a positive 49, plus 4. So altogether you have 53 times I. Number 70, and 72 yet. Okay, we have negative 5i times 4 minus 3i times squared, so we have to multiply it by itself. So once again, I'm going to multiply this part here first, so I'll leave that there. So we got 16 minus 12i minus 12i plus 9i squared. So this makes this a negative 9. 16 minus 9 would be 7, and minus 24i. We have to multiply that by the negative 5i yet. So that gives us negative 35i, and 24 times 5 gives you 120, so plus 120i squared. Remember, I squared is negative 1, so that makes that negative 120 for the real part, and minus 35i for the imaginary part. Last problem, number 72. 3 minus I times 3 plus I times 2 minus 6i. Okay, it doesn't really matter what order you multiply these, but I'm going to do these two because they're conjugates, makes it easier. So that's 9 plus 3i minus 3i minus I squared. Middles cancel. So this would be negative 1 times this negative makes it plus 1. So plus 9 makes 10. So that makes it real easy, doesn't it? Okay, so all we have to do is distribute the 10 through. So it'd be 20 minus 60i. Okay, and that is the homework.